Welcome everybody to the Monday, May the 3rd, 2021 Community Development Meeting. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that the internet is a bit spotty and we may have some issues to it, with it. And if that's possible, we may sort of deal with these items later, but we're going to give it a go and see how it goes. So the second item on the agenda is to approve our agenda. And I believe we're going to make a change to that agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we move number 5, delegations and presentations, to number 6, and number 6 to where number would fit in.
Okay, so so basically just change the numbers 5 and 6.
Yes.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Hunter. And for the members online, I need a way to know how you vote. We'll need to see hands. So I'm going to call that to vote. I've got a mover and Councillor Cameron and a seconder and Councillor Hunter to switch those numbers. All in favor?
Aye.
So Connor Cleary is not
So I don't
on
have
screen.
I don't have a Connor, but we're good to go. So
Where is Connor Cleary? And
I think we lost
Chris Warren was
we
there.
lost
Where's Chris? Chris was there.
Through the chair, it looks like Chris dropped his internet signal. I'm trying to reconnect with him.
Okay.
Well,
So-
Connor Cleary.
So we're good either way though, right?
Yeah.
We've got six and we don't,
We do have.
we're good, so. Okay, so moving on to number 3, which is disclosure of pecuniary interests or the general nature thereof. Does anyone have any interest to declare?
Come from me.
None on the screen? Greg, Connor, no? All right, so let's move on to action.
Business arising.
Excuse me, sorry, you're correct, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the correction. Business arising from the previous committee meeting minutes, if there are any, and does anyone have any question or any business arising?
I have 3 questions.
Fire away.
So the first question is on page 2, but it basically connects with page 5. So we had on page 2 indicated that we would prepare a feedback form. So I was interested to see what that would look like. And then secondly, also on this page, we were indicating that the consultants were going to do a sort of a final draft of the final draft, and we would post that on the website. So have we got any closer to get the final draft of the final draft? Final draft of the first draft.
If I can,
Wendy, yeah.
thank you. We're working on releasing the public draft for the upcoming open house. We've prepared a COVID safety plan. It's been reviewed by the health unit. They've given us a few minor edits to make. Before we released it, we had a chat with the health unit and with Novatech, felt that it was right at the time that the stay-at-home order was being announced, felt that it may not be appropriate for the township to start advertising an open house right when the stay-at-home order was being announced. So we decided we were going to wait. We're going to release the draft for the open house, start advertising for the open house, all at the same time when the stay-at-home order is lifted. In the meantime, and by the way, the COVID safety plan and the plan for the open house is very much like what we discussed at our last meeting. We will have screening ahead of time. There will be 4 open house meetings, one at the Ingredient Center, one at the South Edwardsburg Recreation Center in Johnstown, one here in Council Chambers, and one electronically by Zoom. There'll be pre-screening ahead of time. There'll be a follow-up form, as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, for feedback to be provided afterwards. That'll be shared with the committee and council. While we're waiting to release the public draft for open house, we're also preparing a frequently asked questions sheet that we can release at the same time to help answer some preliminary questions that the residents might have. and we're preparing some information sheets, so brief summaries of some new items like or trailers or things that we know are drawing a lot of attention, so we can provide some additional information ahead of the open house. So we're doing a lot of work to get ready. We're not ready yet, but the delay is also on purpose because we don't want to advertise an open house meeting during the stay-at-home order.
Okay, so,
Continue.
yeah, so I have no problems with that. I understand that. You can't have an open house during a stay-at-home order. But my question concerned, is the draft ready? Because we said that we would put the draft up on the website before the open house. So is the draft ready to put up on the website?
My apologies. I thought it was going to be put on the website with when we launched the open house meeting, when we started to advertise the open house meeting. So we can look at putting that up ahead of time if that is the committee's preference.
Is the draft ready now?
Novotech indicated it wouldn't take long to get ready. They only had a few small edits from the last meeting to make, so it would be quick, I think, for them to prepare it.
So
I would like to release it with the frequently asked question sheet and with the info sheet.
how far away from that are you?
I would say I need a week.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, well, that's all I'm asking is, my understanding of the reading of the minutes was that it would be posted on the website. And the reason I thought that was because the discussion centered around giving people time to have a look at it prior to appearing at an open house.
We're assuming the stay-at-home order will be lifted May the 20th. Is that what it's extended to? Anybody know offhand?
Well, I know there's more and more people calling for it not to be
Yeah,
removed until
June 1st, I
after the long
imagine.
weekend.
yeah, after the long weekend. So that still gives it a good 2 or 3 weeks up ahead of any possible public meeting date. So that, okay. So is that the will of the committee? Is that a general nodding of heads?
I
Is
think that's fine.
that okay to request that go out early? Councillor? Yeah, no?
People more chance to read it over. It'll be a long read.
Yes. Steve?
I'm good, thank you. Yep.
Chris? Greg, did you get that? Thumbs up? Thumbs up? Yeah, so whatever your frequently asked question and, is ready to go up, the sooner it goes up, the better.
Got it.
Okay. Further questions, Mr. Mayor?
No, that's it for me.
Anyone else?
I'm good.
My only question, I think, was pretty much exactly that, which was, did we have an update regarding that? So I think that takes care of it. Okay, so we've dealt with business arising, and we are now going on to 6A, which is the live part, which is the land use planning application for severance at Miller Road, Van Dyne. Wendy, if you can give us a little background, that'd be great.
Absolutely, thank you, Chair. Owner David Van Dyne has applied for 2 severances on his property on Miller Road. It's about 48 acres. It's within the rural policy area of our official plan, and it's zoned rural. In his applications for severance, he indicated that there were some wetlands on the property. I don't show any wetlands in our official plan, and the Conservation Authority agrees that there aren't any provincially significant wetlands on the property. He may have been concerned with the floodplain there. That being said, there is a floodplain on the retained lands, and there are woodlands, provincially significant woodlands close by, but through conversations with the Conservation Authority, we felt like an environmental impact study is not required. The only thing I'd like to bring to the committee's attention here is the retained lot. The owner indicates it is for agricultural use, which is a permitted use in the rural zone, but the minimum lot size in the rural zone for agricultural use is 40 hectares. So the lot currently is undersized for agricultural use, which is okay to use it for agricultural use, permitted use on a lot that's undersized, but we can't make that lot smaller because it's already undersized. But it's not within the agricultural policy area, it's not zoned agricultural. We could make it smaller with just a minor variance. So my recommendation would be that the applicant also apply for a minor variance to deal with the different lot size.
Wendy,
Joined the meeting.
welcome, Connor. All right, so let's just go around. Does anyone have any questions regarding severance? Councilor Hunter?
Well, I have a question about why we need minor variance. It's not in the agricultural zone, it's in the rural zone, so it's just because he says he's using it to grow soybeans on. If he said he wasn't using it to grow soybeans on, it's just a big lot in the rural area. So why are we asking for a minor variance?
Wendy?
If I can through the chair, yeah, he did indicate it's for agricultural use for a cash crop. And I think I included in the committee package, the zoning bylaw for the rural zone says, so it's on page 26 of 28 of your agenda package, says for agricultural use, the minimum lot area is 40 hectares.
So to use a zoned rural lot for agricultural use, the minimum amount is 40 hectares and it doesn't meet that. So it would retain its rural designation by a minor variance and get a special exemption for agricultural use?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
So that's where I'm having my problem too, because the standard is 98.8 acres. And we're asking a committee to approve a minor variance of down to 40.5 acres. So that's, in my mind, there's nothing about that that's minor. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with him continuing to use it for whatever he wants to use it for. But I do have a problem with asking a committee to go from 98.8 to 40.5 and call it minor. I have a problem with the two severances, except that in the briefing note, I see the comment provincially significant wetlands twice, and then I see provincially significant woodland. And yet, I just heard a minute ago that there are no provincially significant wetlands. It says the applicant has identified provincially significant wetlands. Does he even know what a provincially significant wetland is? If it's not on the map, it doesn't exist.
And
I think he may have been considering the river on the southern border of the property and may have thought that was provincially significant wetlands. You're right, he may not have known what provincially significant wetlands were, but because it was shown on the application, he checked that box. I needed to look into it. So I consulted with the Conservation Authority and confirmed that they weren't there.
Yeah, I mean, I have a real problem with calling something provincially significant wetland. Because, I mean, you gotta remember, this is in writing now, and it's part of a report that we're receiving. And if it doesn't exist, it shouldn't, in my mind, it shouldn't be here. Because somebody can always come back and say, well, they weren't part of the verbal hearing that took place. How come we did this in an area where there are provincially significant wetlands?
maybe I'm wrong, but
And I never heard of provincially significant woodlands. I didn't know there was such a thing.
definitely.
Provincially significant woodland?
Yeah, we just did a severance
Yeah, on,
last month or the month before with an environmental, and asked for an environmental assessment
44
on
and
it.
Glen Smell.
Yeah, let's
I
go.
know, we did it, but on the
It's in our,
county official plan, is there such an animal as a provincially significant woodland? And in our official plan, is there an animal called a provincially significant woodland?
go ahead, Wendy.
Thank you for the chair. On page 25 of 28 of the agenda package, I show an excerpt from the official plan. All the
No, just a
trees-
minute,
Yep.
where are you?
Page 25 of 28.
25 of 28, I'm trying to find it. So I've got 23,
That's a map 8. Maybe, yeah.
I got a couple of maps in here.
It's a map.
It's a map?
Yeah, it's this map.
Okay, so
So
go ahead.
all the green on that map is provincially significant woodlands.
All the green
Yeah,
is provincially significant woodland.
we got a lot of them.
There's lots of them.
Okay, all right, now, but there are no provincially significant wetlands.
Correct.
Okay,
Now, the person, just for clarification, Wendy, the person that declared them or thought that they were was the applicant themselves, correct?
Correct.
And all you did was consult with South Nation to confirm that they were not
Yeah.
provincially significant, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's satisfied.
Yeah,
Okay, anyone, Counselor, were you done?
No,
Sorry.
so
I'll-
have a problem with
That's okay.
this zoning. We're doing rezoning here, when we're in a rural area. I understand when we put in 40 hectares in agriculturally zoned lands to use for agriculture use, but when we're in a rural zone, say that for anybody that wants to have any kind of agriculture, that they gotta have 100 acres. I think that's ridiculous. There's all kinds of farms in our township that's not 100 acres, that's in the rural zone that are farming. I think that's totally out of place being in there in a rural zone.
Do you want to speak to that, Wendy?
Sure, thank you through the chair. I would note that our draft zoning bylaw does not have that provision of 40 hectares for agricultural use in the rural zone. Further to that, our official plan for the rural policy area does not require 40 hectares for a lot size. That's just in the agricultural policy area. So I agree, it's a little out of place to ask for 40 hectares in the rural zone, but it's what our current zoning bylaw says is required.
so,
So as soon as the new one is passed, we'll be all right.
so I would call that an error in our existing zoning bylaw myself.
Yeah,
Sounds like it.
I don't know how it'd be in there. We on the council when we passed that.
Yeah.
Okay. So-
Plan below and was agricultural zone was all
So-
we were talking about at the
so-
time.
Maybe I was asleep that night. I
You
don't
must
know.
have been, or you would have caught it.
Counselor Gamer?
Yes, just for some clarification, I'm looking at actually 3 maps. The first one is on page 21, which is the outline in yellow, outlined with blue, that I totally understand. And then we go to page 23, and I see which looks like the very same piece that is to be severed off. First we say severed, then we say retained. Now, is that because you're going to sever 2 lots off of what is shown in yellow on page 21?
Yes, if I can through the chair.
Yes.
There are 2 severances. So technically the first one is 7.5 acres and the next one is 2.5 acres off of that. So the result is a 5-acre lot and a 2.5 acre lot.
Okay, so what I see on page 21 is everything that is going to be severed and everything that's going to be retained.
For the first application, and then what you see on page
Second one's that.
23
Yeah.
is severed and retained for the second application.
But it's the same rectangle, is it not?
Same land, yeah.
No, I didn't.
Yes, okay, thank you. I'm clear now, thank you.
Counselor Dillon?
No, that's what was bothering me right there. Thank you.
Chris Ward, any
Couldn't
comments?
get my head around that.
Well, actually, I had one, but I forgot to take my hand back down. What Councillor Cameron asked was what I was going to ask as well. So solves that.
Thanks, Chris. Mr. Modler?
Just through the chair, just a point of clarity. So in the applicant's letter, is it because he made reference that he was going to use that for soybeans that we're asking for this minor variance? Is that the only reason why? If he wouldn't have said anything, would we have been asking for a minor variance?
Wendy?
Yeah, he did indicate in his application it was for agricultural use. I gave him a phone call to follow up to clarify, and he says, yes, it's for a cash crop. If he had indicated it was for a building lot or residential use, would I have known the difference? I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, we do.
Okay, and then through the chair, just following up on the mayor's point about the wording in Wendy's or in the recommendation here, should we should we be looking to remove the wording, the provincial significant wetland, so that it's years to come? We've recognized that that shouldn't have been in that possible recommendation.
I don't think it's actually in the
It's not in
recommendation.
the recommendation.
It's just showing that
Well, it's
it's in the background.
in the background.
Yeah. Like 10 years from now, are we going to remember that we didn't take that into consideration? That's my point.
So, through the chair, I'm not sure, because I'm misunderstanding a little bit as well, because all we've indicated is that the applicant indicated that there was our research, all of our documentation
So there's
indicate that there isn't. That's all that the
Yeah,
background
there's no big deal.
information states.
That's not
Which to me,
Okay, you know what? If we're satisfied, we're satisfied. Thanks.
Lastly, Connor, are you there?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, thanks, Connor.
Okay,
Okay,
one
so,
more
okay, sorry,
I have one more question.
yes.
For the chair to Wendy, why is he severing the one lot and then severing it again? Why isn't he just severing the two lots off the parcel to start with?
I don't know why he chose to do it that way. Sorry, I think both would have been acceptable,
Because
in my opinion.
I see quite clearly on here, there's 4 other severances on that chunk of land there.
Through the chair.
Yeah,
I
absolutely,
see,
sorry.
I see what you're saying. There, in the rural policy area, you cannot create more than 2 lots from an existing lot of record. Is that where?
Yeah,
Okay, I see where you're going. The existing lot of record is the lot as it was in December of 2003. So, no matter which way you were to do it, you can't get around that rule. I can confirm that this lot, as it's being severed now, is a lot of record. It hasn't been severed since 2003.
I was at the wrong dates then, because I thought it was 84 that we were going on.
Oh, no, it's 2003 in December.
So I think we're good there?
Yeah.
So the only thing that I'm sensing that there's an issue with is the minor variance reference, correct?
I don't think we did.
Gentlemen?
I think it's just a waste of time.
Yes, I do too.
We haven't moved the recommendation yet, so, Counselor, how do you feel?
Waste of time.
And we have 3 private citizens, so let's see what their take is, and then we'll have to rewrite a recommendation. So, Chris, take it or leave it.
No, I think we should take it out.
Greg,
Take it out.
Connor?
Well, I think it's good that people are thinking about it in advance of a severance of their property. We're talking about the wetlands, right?
No. Talking about whether they need a minor variance to continue the agricultural use.
Okay, so my other thought about this was in the page that Wendy included, page 26 of 28 of the package, the top permitted use is agricultural use in a rural zone. I don't think that should have any minimum or maximum lot size or acreage associated.
Okay, so you agree to take it out then?
I just want to make my point clear, though, that if we're, this is something that I don't think we discussed specifically during the zoning bylaw discussions.
Yeah.
We hadn't really come up with something like this, but it always kind of stood out, and I didn't understand why it bothered me, but I see it clearly now in this very specific scenario.
Connor, I'm gonna cut you off. We're having trouble hearing you. Is there any way that you can get your volume turned up a little bit?
Well, is this
No, that's
better?
Yeah,
Okay.
much better.
I think
I think while we were talking about this during the bylaw discussions, we didn't really have context, but here's the context I guess we were missing with rural zones allowing agricultural use, but then having a minimum lot area for agricultural use. I don't know how to decode that, but that just sort of is something we maybe should address somehow.
I think we've decided we have already addressed that, correct? For the upcoming zoning bylaw, that 40 hectare will be removed, right?
Yes, to the chair, in the draft zoning bylaw, there isn't a 40 hectare requirement for the.
So that should satisfy that, Connor. Well, my question is to you is that, is minor variance in or minor variance out?
Truthfully, I don't know enough about it, so I'm just going to have to let the rest of the committee decide this one. I don't know enough about minor or major variances of any sort.
Okay, so let's count it as no, and then the rest is 4. So we'll have to move a recommendation then. So does somebody want to put that together for me? Move a recommendation that
Can we
removes.
not just stop right after where it says and the 54-21?
I think you
Stop
probably
right
can.
there.
Yep. Is that you got a thumbs up? So would you like to move that, Councillor?
I will, yes. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hunter. The committee recommends that council recommend the severance 3-21 and B 54-21.
Any further discussion or questions around the table here? None? How about on the TV? Chris, Greg, or Connor, any further?
Nope.
Hearing none, then I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Guys on the screen? Good. So
Yes,
we're
Connor.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I didn't want to bring it up during the discussion, and the discussion is over.
Yes.
I'd just like to ask another question.
Sure.
Okay, so one of the uses in the rural zone, it says on page 26, is a wayside pit or quarry. And in the briefing note that was attached to this last one we just dealt with, says that the applicant has a pit or something on his land that is inactive and is presently being used as a pond. Now, the reason I want to bring that up is because here we are now with the county doing their study on pits and quarries and aggregates. And is this applicant aware that he may have a valuable asset in the form of a pit or a quarry? I don't know what he's got here, whether it's stone or sand.
Wayside gravel pit.
It's a wayside gravel pit?
Run out.
It's run out? Oh, okay, all right. So it's abandoned then. Okay.
It's not a licensed pit, just a wayside pit.
Okay, so it's abandoned. If it's abandoned and you're saying that it's run out, then he has really no interest in the county study that's going on.
Like, I don't imagine that the only way to be of any value where the gravel would be, there's houses already built on it, so.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, I just wanted to get that clear in my mind because sometimes people don't realize the value of what they're sitting on.
Are you suggesting that we should tell?
No, I don't think so because we've dealt with this application as he required. But
Their family was involved in agriculture business.
Okay. All right. So we can move on, correct?
Yep.
All right. So let's go back to number 5. A, and I like this is an exciting one. I'd like to welcome, I believe, Dana's here, correct? Dana Valentine, who's the Economic Development Officer for the town of Prescott, and Justin St. Pierre, who represents the South Grendel Digital Main Street Service Squad. That must be fun to get on your business card, Justin.
It is a mouthful.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Well, welcome, and amid all of this, not bad news here tonight, but bad news when we open up our newspaper or TV these days, I don't hear a whole lot of positives. So it's going to be nice to hear the positive success that that the Digital Main Street squads had. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you and Dana have to say tonight. Welcome to the Community Development Committee.
Well, thank you all very much for having me here tonight. I'm just going to pull up my presentation. Can everyone see that?
Your screen sharing well.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do is take you briefly first through the generally what Digital Main Street is and what the Digital Service Squad was. Then I'm going to move you specifically through the 3 or 4 main programs of Digital Main Street. We're going to look briefly at a success story from Edwardsburg Cardinal that I think really illustrates what Digital Main Street has been able to do, especially during this time. And then towards the end, I'll just look at some of the other activities that we've done to try to help promote business activities throughout the region. So what is Digital Main Street? Digital Main Street started in 2016 as a program of the Toronto Board of Trade. What it was an effort to try to get Main Street businesses to adopt things like e-commerce and social media marketing. It expanded to BIAs across the province after that. And then with the pandemic, the federal and provincial governments provided funding to spread it throughout the province, not just to BIAs or to traditional urban areas, but into municipalities that may not have had a BIA area, but did have some Main Street businesses that could be impacted. So in South Grenville, the 3 municipalities, Augusta, Edwardsburg, Cardinal, and Prescott, partnered with the downtown Prescott BIA to receive the Digital Main Street funding. And that is what has had me here for the past 6 months. As I mentioned, there are 4 main programs with Digital Main Street. The first and the one that I'm most directly involved in are the Digital Transformation Grant and the Digital Service Squad. Through the Digital Transformation Grant, small independent businesses that were zoned consistently with the municipality's commercial core were eligible to apply for this funding. This funding could be up to $2,500 at a 100% level, so no cost matching involved. It was straight funding for digital activities. So that could be a variety of things such as social media marketing, e-commerce development, or technology that was required to help businesses become more digitally literate and digitally active. The Digital Service Squad, which has been the majority of my time for the past 6 months, focused on directly supporting businesses. Both the businesses that received that Digital Transformation Grant funding, as well as a broader number of businesses, which could include home-based businesses, businesses that weren't on main streets, businesses that were looking to do, whether it was to discuss the ideas related to digital marketing, content marketing, whether it was questions about digital adoption or moving them towards other programs like the 2 Digital Main Street programs I'm going to highlight, or other ones in our area, support services for businesses that were struggling during this time. The second program, and maybe the most impactful, is the Future Proof program. Future Proof is run by Launch Lab out of Kingston in our area. They put together a series of what they call the transformation teams, which were recent graduates that were specialists in digital marketing, web development, content creation, who would work directly with the business to develop strategies, learn how to implement them, and also assist them with that implementation. So in our area, we had a total of 13 businesses so far that have taken advantage of this hands-on training. They work for 4 to 6 weeks. They come out with not just necessarily what you'd consider like a digital marketing strategy, but they would come out with, in some cases, new branding. In some cases, they would develop a new website. They would implement new processes. So it's more than just the social media marketing. There is this additional hands-on development for their business processes. The third program, and the one that probably had the most uptake in all 3 municipalities, is the Shop Here program. Shop Here assigned businesses that were interested what was called an e-commerce coordinator, and they worked directly with the business to develop a free at the upfront e-commerce website. And unlike the digital transformation grant program, Shop Here was open to anyone that had a registered business. So this impacted a lot of crafters, bakers, home-based businesses that prior to the pandemic, the bulk of their income may have come through the sales that were happening constantly through farmers markets. They no longer had a means to reach their markets. So Shop Here has allowed a number of these businesses to develop e-commerce websites, trains them on them, helps them build them, helps them do some of that branding, and then provided free credits to help market those businesses when they were started. And then through the Digital Service Squad program, we were able to work directly with these businesses on the back end to help them. I've included a couple of the screenshots of two of the Edwardsburg Cardinal businesses. These are both home-based businesses, Died by Lindsay and Me and My Brother Studios. They were people who used that sort of crafters farmers market fair circuit to generate their sales previously. That was no longer possible. So they've been able to transition to these online sales through a Shopify account. And in both cases have been able to start selling their wares online. So as I mentioned, I wanted to highlight one of the success stories from Edwardsburg Cardinal, and that is MadMacs Furniture and Antiques in Cardinal. I think most people would be familiar. It's a long-standing business. Previously, it dealt mostly in new furniture and appliances. In recent years, it has started to move towards antiques. As well, they've had some personal setbacks. David, who was one of the co-owners, passed away in March after a period of ill health. And Marianne has been trying to come up with ways in order to continue the business and make it easier for her to manage. So through the digital transformation grant, she was able to develop, it's not live yet, but she is developing a new website with auction capabilities with her web developer. So she'll be able to host online auctions for MadMacs directly from her website. She was able to invest in some hardware to move beyond a pen and paper system of managing inventory, so that now they can move their inventory management, their marketing onto that hardware. Working directly with me, with the Digital Service Squad, we've been able to get her onto Facebook and develop her Facebook shop. And this is, I think, one of the more interesting things that I may not even have been aware of before starting this. And it's the way in which Facebook, especially in communities like ours, can be used as a direct sales tool. So in Marianne's case, she does have the Facebook shop, which demonstrates some of the things that she has in store. But she started generating sales by doing things like posting photographs from inside the store that showed a wide variety of what was in there. And then she started getting messages. I'm interested in that bird cage. I'm interested in that sofa. And that started generating those sales through there. So it's almost like moving to a degree the community online. What would have been walk-in traffic before, she can now generate through that. And she hopes to be able to both have the store open, but also be able to create sales through these two channels moving forward. So I wanted to talk about some of the other activities that we've been able to do through Digital Main Street as well. One of them is our Y2 webinars. So with our Y2 webinars, we wanted to focus on not the how to do these things, but why businesses should consider doing them, because there was a lot of reticence to some of the digital activities. So we had businesses that were doing these digital marketing activities prior to or had started with the digital transformation grant come on and discuss how they use these social media to generate sales. So in our first one back in January, we had two small businesses from Prescott, one a retail, one a service-oriented business, on to talk about how they use Facebook, what they do through that to generate customers. And the great part about that was that during that webinar, the other businesses that joined to watch, as well as the two people that were featured, ended up discussing things, ideas for the different businesses. Have you considered doing this? Have you considered doing that? So it really generated a lot of conversation between them. A second activity that we've been doing is a short podcast where we're talking to some of the people who have used digital Main Street programs, people who are undertaking digital activities. One of the main reasons that I want to do this was because I think that business owners themselves telling that story about how they're using it, especially if they were a little bit tech phobic before they started, can discuss how they used it, how they're using it to start generating revenue, how these tools can work. So this has provided us an opportunity to talk to some of those businesses and has generated a great deal of content that can be used if there are future rounds of digital Main Street to help make businesses more comfortable with some of the things that they could be doing. And finally, one of the things we really wanted to do was get all of these business resources in one place. So I had developed a website for South Grenville Digital Main Street to direct people to when I was talking to them about the different programs. So what we've done there is develop this business resource page where we wanted to put together not just the digital resources, the digital Main Street resources, the things that we have developed through those webinars and podcasts, but also some more general business type resources, because in talking to especially home-based businesses, but to a lot of them, you discover that things like business plans weren't really something that they had considered along the way, marketing plans, financial projections. So we wanted to sort of have the ability to direct people to those, as well as the business resources in the community, especially at a time like this, so that they would know that things like the community futures were there, that the Leeds Grenville Small Business Enterprise Center, what they could offer, as well as the various economic development departments. So as I mentioned, we do have a website. It's sgdss.weebly.com. And Digital Main Street will be continuing here in this iteration for, I believe, 5 weeks further into the middle of June. There does seem as if there will be another round happening in the summer. So hopefully that's something, especially for the grants, that can continue. But if you know of anyone who may be interested, the Shop Here and Future Proof programs are still open for a little while longer. The contact information is there. They can contact me either through there or check out the website for the possible programs that might work for them. So if anyone had any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
First, I'll say thank you, Justin, and I'll go around and see if there are questions from the committee. So I think I'm going to start on the screen this time. I'll start with Mr. Ward. Do you have any questions for Justin?
No, it sounds like there's been a lot of good stuff happening, which is awesome to see. To Tori's point, it's good to see some good news happening here as well. So you have a lot of capacity left over, is what I'm hearing, for not a lot, maybe some capacity left over to add some of the digital shopping things as well to people, to more businesses. Is that what I read out of that conversation?
Yes, so Shop Here is continuing. So any business that wanted to develop an e-commerce website through that, I would highly encourage them to take that opportunity as soon as possible, because there is a sunset date on that at the end of June. But those two programs are still available, and I'm still available to work directly with anyone that wanted to get started on digital marketing.
Yeah, and that's great. And sorry, just to continue on that, because I know we've talked in past meetings about, having one central place for these things to happen, which it sounds like it's already set up, which is really good to see, because we've been sort of identifying how do we as council, if you will, and committee, try to get the word out there on businesses. So that's great that you've done that as well. So again, thanks for helping with that. And I'm assuming we can do something to integrate that into a website that's local as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Mr. Modler?
Again, echo what the chair and what Chris has said. Fortunately, I know one of the businesses, and I'm glad to see that she's doing very well and is using this. Um, and if you watch the Ottawa local news, I think every other week they talk about the digital services or this digital mainstreaming that's being used in Ottawa and the success. So I think it's a great program, and hopefully we can keep it going. And again, thank you for presenting to us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Any questions for Justin?
You said there is 13 businesses that signed up. That's pretty good.
For the shop here in particular, there were 13.
All right, I think that's it. Councillor Dillon?
Yes, thanks to the chair. Very well done, Justin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just have a couple questions. How many businesses in our township at Whisper Cardinal took advantage of this?
So between the programs, there would have been a total of about 30 that took part in one part or another of the program, whether it be DTG, DSS, Shop Here, Future Proof.
Good.
Excellent. A follow-up, are they seeing any improvements in their sales or website hits, et cetera, et cetera? Do you do any follow-up on that?
So we tend to work with them on an ongoing basis. You start to see a pattern, especially the people who are starting the new e-commerce websites. There might be a little bit of a lull at the start. They don't know if it's going to succeed. And then they begin to start seeing those sales as they're able to market it, whether it's through Facebook or through traditional channels. They start to see some more sales. With things like the DTG and the Main Street businesses, it takes some time to implement these things, but as MadMacs case shows, once you start getting those things in place, things can start happening pretty quickly.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, thank you, Justin. Very good presentation. I did have some questions, which most of them have been answered. There's only one left, and that is you had brought to our attention what that you referred to as marketing credits. Could you further explain what that is?
So that's just when people are in the Shop Here program, when they complete the website, they're provided, they change fairly regularly, but I believe at the present time, they're provided about a $100 credit for Facebook ads and about a $100 credit for Google search ads, which doesn't seem like a lot, but for Facebook ads, especially $100 for a business that has a local or regional bearing can go a long, long way to getting the word out for them.
Okay, that clears that up for me. Thank you. And again, well done. That's all.
Justin, thank you very much for the presentation. Now, I don't think you were hired yet when we announced the program here in Spencerville for the 3 municipalities, but I think Dana was. And we were joined by the lady from is it the Ontario BIA Association that put this, managed to get the money? And
yes,
now that, so that funding has basically run out, but you say that there is some continuation of the program. How is that being funded?
So initially the program was supposed to end in mid-February. There was an extension first. We received funding through the CFDC to continue to the end of March. So from Grenville CFDC. They did that across the service area for the different service squads. OBIAA, the Ontario Provincial Association, extended that funding to mid-June. So that is the continuation funding there.
I see. So the program that's still running, then that's still being funded through the OBIAA?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, just one larger question. Of the 30 or so businesses that took place in or participated in one part or another, are all of those businesses still operating?
I do not know of one that is not. I do not believe there are any that aren't operating anymore.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Hunter?
Thanks, Justin, very well presented. I just have one question. Of these 30 businesses you work with, how many of them did you work with to set up a complete new web page that they didn't have a web page up before?
So that would not have been me directly. That was through the Shop Here program, and that was the 13 businesses that would have gotten a new website through Digital Main Street.
So now, did they work with them to set up, get their website registered and do all the technical work and help them set up a page for them, or did they have to do some of it on their own?
So the process that they used was that e-commerce coordinator would do the technical things, and these were all on, say, something like Square or Shopify, so they were based on a platform. So they would do that technical work for them, but it wasn't hands-off. The business would have to work along the way with them, with the idea being that when the program was concluded, they would need to operate that website on their own, especially if they were using it for e-commerce. So there was a training aspect that went along with it, but the hard technical stuff was done by the e-commerce coordinator.
Justin, thank you. I only have maybe one or two comments, questions. I'm going to pick up on something sort of the mayor hit on, and it was the second. You did say this would end mid-June, and the expectation is that, or the rumor is that there's going to be a second round of money coming. So if that's the case, are you expecting that money to be available to businesses that already applied and received money? Or is it just going to apply to expand the list of eligible businesses?
So that's to be determined. There hasn't been a great deal of information on that from OBIAA. They're still sorting out the direction that would go. Between the first round and the second round, this being the second round, businesses that had successfully completed their first time through were allowed to apply again. So if they had a further project to do, they could do that. However, if it ended up being that businesses could not apply if they had already received funding, there are still a number of eligible businesses in all three municipalities that didn't access the grant funding the first time through. And I think the fact that we now have so many success stories of businesses that used it, found out that it was easy to access the funding, that it was easy to put together these projects that could really help them. We'll have some vouching from other businesses that will let the program hit a lot of those other businesses the next time through.
Last question, Justin, you sort of hit on it when you said that, and with the uptake or those that chose not to, and it's wonderful for the ones that did, but the ones that didn't, do we know why? Was it, they just didn't have time to do the requirements, or what? Because it didn't seem like there was a lot for a business owner to do.
So I think that you had, on the one hand, what you might want to call a traditional reticence to some of the more technology-based opportunities, and businesses that might not know or might not have yet known what sort of impact this could have on more traditional businesses. That's why I think that having that cadre of businesses that have been through to vouch for these things moving forward would help. In some cases, it was businesses that are incredibly successful doing things in a much more traditional way. And if they said, I'm busier than I can be without doing any of this, why should I do more? It's difficult not to answer that question with, I don't know if you should. So there were situations like that. And I think as well, There was also, when you're going around offering people the opportunity for $2,500 for a business grant with no matching funds, which is very untraditional for such things, you also had a bit of a barrier there where people might not have, they might have wondered if the program was for real. And now we also have all of these businesses to vouch for the fact that all these free opportunities for them are for real and can really impact what they do.
And last question, and you did say that it's sgdss.weebly.com?
Correct.
And did you say there's an end date to that, or is that website staying up?
The website will stay up as long as Digital Main Street is continuing, so it's not going to disappear.
And so we can use that to, does it have the success stories on it, or is it just mostly the business information that you had told us?
What it does have on it is a number of the, what I call the content marketing pieces that we've done throughout the program. So testimonials, short videos from people who have discussed using various aspects of the program. So that is all up there. So if someone went to visit, they could see, for example, Nicole Hudson from Catarinas and Prescott discuss Future Proof and what they were able to do with that. They could have Lindsay from Died by Lindsay. They can see her quotes about the way that Shop Here impacted their business. So that stuff is all there.
Fantastic. If there aren't any other questions, does anyone have any final ones for Justin before we go? Hearing none, Justin, I'd just like to take the opportunity on behalf of the committee. Thank you for your presentation today. And thank you for all the great work you're doing. And I hope we continue to see such great success in a second round of this funding as well.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to, where are we? 5B, correct?
Correct.
All right, so 5B, which is Wendy's Eats and Treats, which is Stan and Wendy McDonald. So Stan and Wendy, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, great. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to say welcome tonight to present to the Community Development Committee. We look forward to hearing your delegation. We've got a little bit of background information on what you're going to be presenting. Typically, we limit the presentation to 10 minutes. I think you know that. I think we've met before. I think you were at one of our zoning bylaw meetings, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was.
So limit to 10 minutes roughly, and then I'm sure that there'll be some questions from the councillors and the members of the community for you as well.
Okay.
Okay?
All righty.
All
A little
right.
nervous after following that presentation. Ours won't look like it.
That's perfectly fine.
Okay. Hello, our names are Wendy and Stan McDonald. We have purchased a refreshment vehicle in the fall, and we were looking to set up in our hometown of Cardinal. The site in question is located on the half-acre grassy vacant portion of Kevin Burchell's community commercial lot that is at the corner of Walker and Canal Street. At this time, our plan is to bring hydro in through the transformer located at the end of East Street. We have been in contact with Daryl Reynolds from Hydro concerning this matter. Water and gray water disposal will be taken care of with appropriate holding tanks. ABC Fire in Brockville has inspected my full fire suppression system and other extinguishers. A letter of intent has been sent to the Leeds, Grenville, and Lanark Health Unit, and I have been apprised of COVID measures that will need to be implemented. My inspector will be Sheila Giffen. TSSA recertification is in the works. The unit has been paced out to be 100 feet from the nearest residence on Canal Street. As discussed with Wendy in the fall, we have purchased an attractive 25-foot unit. It'll be placed on a secure bedding of gravel on site. We plan to add flowers and 4 to 6 pretty picnic tables with red umbrellas on a well manicured lot. My menu plan will be incorporating the history of my small town of Cardinal. I plan to have Redbird specials daily. Many of the specialty burger items offered will be named after the historical history of Cardinal. For example, the Swing Bridge platter, the Benson burger, Dillon House platter, Firehouse burger, Bronco burger, etc. Upon comparing the other local food vehicles in the area, it seems reasonable that a 4-car parking lot would suffice. As well, we observe parking activity at the actual restaurants in town. It seems sporadic is the norm. Parking allotment seems to be the #1 concern to avoid street parking. That being said, we have decided to have employee parking off-site behind the east wall of Kevin Burchell's fenced-in area. This in turn will leave the original plan of 4-car parking lot for customers only. I plan to put up signage stating that street parking is not permitted, as well as on my upcoming website. Excuse me. As far as expected traffic on Walker and Canal Street, we observed at Cowles and Gaytens and Prescott an average of 20 cars during peak time of 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and about 30 cars for the hours of 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Considering we will be centrally located, we expect a lot of foot traffic as well. During off-season, the unit, water containers, and picnic tables will be removed and stored at our home. We will, however, comply with the site plan control if still required after our updated employee parking decision. We have included in our site plan picture the measurements for both a 4-car and 6-car lot. We feel with extensive media rollout combined with a visually pleasing site and outdoor tables that this will bring a successful element of small town charm to Cardinal. Does anybody have any questions? I believe you were forwarded the site plan from Wendy.
I put one off my page to the visual main street. Oh, it's in my packet. Okay. All right. So bear with me, Wendy. I'm going to let the committee ask some questions. I'm sure there is a great deal of interest in. Oh, right here, this one. In the food truck and the food truck industry. So who wants to go first? Steve, you want to start? Councillor Dillabaugh, sorry.
Sure. I just have one. You're saying that you're going to tie in the hydro on East Street, and then in the winter time you're taking all your stuff on your truck, gray water and so on and so forth. How's that going to work? Are you just going to do a disconnect?
Yes.
So you're going to have an actual meter out there coming off of East Street, is that right?
That is what Mr. Reynolds had suggested.
No, that's what she said.
Is that the right name I got?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, East Street's the other end. West.
Okay, so it's what?
It's West Street, yes.
Oh, did I say the wrong one?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay, and then so you're gonna have a meter out there, then you're just gonna do a disconnect at the end of the season, is that right?
Yes.
And I just have that other one, I think we're gonna have a parking issue there, but I'm looking at it. With the 6-car parking, but that we'll discuss that later on my call. No, that's good, that's all.
Good, yeah, thanks. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, hi Wendy, thank you for your presentation. I just have a few questions. Now, the truck is going to be a permanent fixture, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
We can barely hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. The truck or the chip stand, the food truck is going to be there permanently. Is that correct?
No, it'll be taken off season.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have no more questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for the presentation. I understand the concept, but I just didn't understand what was the ask from the committee.
Oh, since we plan to move our employee parking behind Kevin Burchell's fenced-in area, the east part, and we are not on site, will a 4-car parking lot suffice to keep us out of site plan control?
Well, I'm not, well, if you move your employee parking off the lot, that gives you six parking areas, does it not? Six-car parking area, does it not?
A 6-car parking area would put us under site control. If we have a 4-car parking lot, we would not have to go under site control. My question is, will a 4-car parking lot suffice since employee parking will be off-site?
What is your reason for trying to avoid site plan control?
Financial reasons mainly.
So through the chair to Wendy. What's the quantum here? How much money for site plan control?
For a site plan control agreement is $750 because it's considered minor development. It would also need a grading and drainage plan.
Yeah, it's the grading and drainage plan. It's going to cost about $3,000. I guess I put that across wrong.
I have a question. It's Connor.
Connor, I'm just going around the table. I'll get to you. Thank you.
So I guess my question is, so avoiding site plan control, the reason for avoiding site plan control is a question of the financing up front. Is that, do I understand that correctly?
Not the $750. It's the $3,000 it's going to cost for a grading and drainage plan.
Well, and that's an interesting thing because at that particular location, as I understand the map that I've got here in front of me, Canal Street, Canal Street, as I'm coming west on Canal Street and make the right-hand turn onto Walker Street,
yes.
At that corner there's a big mud hole or big water hole. It's been brought to my attention about 75 times from residents living in that area. And so I'm aware of the problem that exists at the inside corner there. I think
Okay.
it is the inside corner. But so that's an estimated $3,000 plan. So, but nevertheless, in your presentation, you indicate that the truck and all of the tables, etc., are going to be removed at the end of the season.
Yes.
Did I understand that properly? Okay, so then what are you foreseeing as kind of the end of the season? Can you give me a date or an expected?
I would imagine late October. Pretty much as soon as it really starts to get cold, of course, I would have to shut down.
Okay, so I guess the way I'm sort of thinking here at the present time, so Mr. Chair, it's up to you here, but through you to the community development coordinator, if we said, okay, we'll dispense with the site plan agreement for this year, avoid the drainage and grading plan for this year, but make it a requirement if we end up with problems over the summer. Would you be acceptable to sort of a pilot or a temporary arrangement to see you through year of operation?
She's asking you.
Oh, they're asking,
Absolutely.
that would be absolutely wonderful.
Okay, but what I'm getting at, Mr. Chairman, is we would allow the extra parking space.
No, he wasn't talking to me.
That becomes a question for the coordinator.
Yes.
Can we allow the extra parking space without requiring a site and drainage plan for this first season? I'm trying to find a compromise here. And I think.
Are you suggesting to go with 4 on site and 2 off site?
No, because the drawing.
Just going to go with 6 on site.
Well, the drawing that I have in front of me shows the 4 and the 6 side by side.
Well, I think.
The 4 and the 6 are side by side in the drawing that I've got.
I think the 4 is the idea if
The
there's
4
no
avoids the site plan
Yeah, and
control.
6 is if we make them.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, don't make them have the site plan, but recognize the fact that they're gonna need 6 parking spots. They may or may not. Again, that's something that maybe we don't even need to worry about.
Can I put-
first year of operation?
Let me just put that one to the CAO and see how the CAO responds to that.
Through the chair, with respect to that, the zoning bylaw with more than 4 parking spots typically places anything under site plan control.
So do 4 and 2 off. I think you can get where you want to go by doing 4 on, not 6.
There's the 4 and there's the other 2.
Right, and I completely agree, but I think we're going against what our zoning bylaws tell us we need to do if we have 6. If we just say go with 4 on site and see how it goes, and then if we require them to come back and do a site plan next year for the 6 because there's parking issues, then we have to go through that then next year. But this way we don't. The way that I'm hearing what the CAO said is that we don't go against our own bylaws by allowing the 4.
I know, but what's worrying me is that this Canal Street and Walker Street are narrow at best with no sidewalks and no boulevards. And if we end up with on-street parking, the hassle that we'll get from the motorists is gonna be, I don't know what to do here, to be honest with you.
So if I may, through the chair, it could come under site plan control with requirement of those 6 parking spots. And if you want to waive the condition of a grading and drainage plan for the first year to reevaluate, that may be an option.
That's great.
That's the compromise I was looking for.
We can do that.
Do you want an answer to that right now, or can we continue the discussion and come back to that?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have more questions? You're good? Councilor Hunter?
I'm not
Yeah.
100% familiar
Let me get there.
with the area here, but I'm looking at a map here. This land all owned, I assume by Kevin Burchell owned all this land?
Yes.
So you're leasing this area that you got marked off, you've got a lease agreement with Kevin to.
No, we're just renting.
Well, rent lease.
Same. So just looking at it, we're saying, gone out here 4 parking spots. It's on a private land here, like, we can say there's parking spots for 4, but it looks like this is all open there, like, who's gonna say they don't park 7 cars? So in there, it's on a private lot. We're saying, okay, they designate 4, but the rest of the land that I take it's open there. So nobody's gonna say how many cars really is gonna pull in there and park. It's just the main thing I get here is, and I drove Canal Street quite a few times, is that we definitely can't have any cars parked in Canal Street there, so. And I don't think any local ones are gonna want to park on there anyway. They'll want to pull in to the to the wagon and park if there's places to park, so.
Yep.
I don't really see a problem with it.
I'm gonna move up. Are you finished, Councilor Hunter? Sorry. Move up to Mr. Ward, Greg. Or Chris, sorry. Greg's no golf buddy.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was unmuting and muting. Anyways, doesn't matter. The question I have, I mean, I guess it goes down to the site plan agreement as well, is, you know, we lose a bit of the protection of, there's a few houses in the area as well, residents in the area. And you know, I don't know if we're getting their feedback in this whole exercise if we don't have that. Is, you know, what are we looking at for that?
Yeah, good.
Is that addressed to us?
Well, I guess it's addressed. I don't know if you've had communication with people.
Actually,
but, you know,
actually, yes. During the process of kind of manicuring the area, we've had a lot of positive response from the adult community that's right across the road. While we were measuring where the food truck is going to be to the closest resident, the gentleman came out and wished us all the luck in the world. So it's been nothing but positive so far.
That was Charlie?
That was
Charlie Burl?
Yeah.
Okay. And Mary Stitt came over?
Mary Stitt came over, yeah.
And a few other ladies.
Okay,
I wasn't sure,
that's great. It's just because I know we've had a few of these instances in the past, and you know, is there any opportunity for the community to have any concerns addressed? I don't know if we're going to have that if we don't have a site plan agreement. That's all.
Thanks, Chris. Any further questions?
I have a question still, Connor.
You're after Greg, Connor. I'm getting there.
No, I don't have any questions. If it's my understanding, it's in a commercial area. It looks like you've thought it out very well. From your plan, it doesn't look like there's going to be any picnic tables or anything for on-site eating. Or if I'm missing out on
Not until it's lifted.
Yes. Once the COVID.
Once the COVID
okay.
is lifted, I do plan to have 4 to 6 picnic tables with red umbrellas. I plan for it to look just absolutely adorable.
Okay.
But of course,
And
I can't do that now.
And that'd be situated probably where you've got the compass on the map.
Yes,
and the
yes, that leaves.
Okay, that area.
That leaves about 25.
Oh, sorry, I do see table there. Sorry.
Okay, there's 4.
Okay. Okay, I'll put my glasses on the next time, but no further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Mr. Butler. All right, Connor, now it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. I'm just wondering what would be the downsides or rules against, what would be the downsides or rules against having parking on the east side of Walker Street and the north side of Canal Street?
East side of.
I didn't understand the question.
So I'm just wondering, is there a way we could do 4 parking on site and then work towards having available parking on one side of that street, but not both sides?
The streets are, I think I can answer that one, Connor. The streets are far too narrow in that area.
Yes, but gravel shoulder or something like that.
There's no gravel shoulders.
Yeah.
Could they be added to accommodate for parking?
If you were here, Connor, the
so that they
CAO
can
is
have more
saying no.
vehicles out there?
Not a doable thing in that area. Chris, or did I cut you off before earlier? Did I cut you in the middle of a question? If I did, I apologize.
Well, I was going to come back to it anyway. No, I was just sort of left. You know, I mean, just because we've had issues in the past with you know, chip wagons in particular, right? You know, is there going to be a chance for the community around there to get a voice? And I know that they've met with you guys and you had great feedback, which is excellent. But you know, if we don't have some sort of public feedback from it, I just fear we're in the danger of going through that same thing again that we had, you know, down the road, if you will.
Guaranteed to happen.
So taking that question to the community development coordinator and to the CAO, what input does the public actually have, and what is their availability or their ability, I guess, to comment on the project?
through the chair, in the site plan control process, I think we're familiar with that. We've been through it before. It's a meeting that is open to the public, and the public has a chance to make a delegation there. When it's not subject to site plan control, the refreshment vehicle license is without public consultation. During zoning bylaw review, because the property is zoned commercial, so it's appropriate for a refreshment vehicle, things like that. So not an immediate opportunity for the public.
Okay, Chris, does that satisfy you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess all I'm saying is, we're not going to have that consultation. And I mean, the other site was zoned for this thing for allowed it as well. I'm just saying there's a danger there that we could have this whole thing come back at us again at a later date. That's all.
Chris, I think what the mayor suggested earlier was, and the CAO came in as well, is that we still do a site plan agreement. It's just we don't require, as part of the site plan agreement, or for 1 year, we waive the grading and drainage.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you know what? I think I must have missed that.
Plan agreement, and the public would still get the ability. Yeah, we haven't moved that yet, but I think at once this discussion's done, I think we'll go back to that suggestion and further. It seems to have a pretty good nodding of heads around here. So.
I might have my audio cut out then. I missed part of that. So that makes more sense. It also allows for people to get used to it for a year before they can, so I'm okay with that. That sounds good.
Identifies issues too. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. And folks, I just have another question. It's regarding the four car parking lot. Has that already been established? Is it there now?
The groundwork for the 4-car parking lot is down. Once we became aware that the Circle K, what do you call the headquarters, they had said no to overflow parking lot. We stopped construction of the parking lot until we were able to meet with yourselves concerning if we need to move to a 6-car, or if the employee parking being off-site would allow the 4-car parking lot to be sufficient.
I see. So Circle K has some objections here then?
I had submitted a request for some overflow parking right next to where we are located. There's a 4-car parking spot. We had the district manager, her name was Angie Morrow. We spoke briefly about it. She seemed really excited, really positive. She said, let me put an email towards the headquarters in Toronto. With that, we had I was kind of presumptuous, obviously. We ordered the gravel and I started to do the legwork for the parking lot, only to find out that they will not endorse it. So everything kind of come to a halt until this meeting.
Okay, so I just want to be very clear. Did you do for the 4-car parking lot? Did you do any scraping or that, or did you?
No, I just laid the gravel on the grass and then left it there. I just kind of made a makeshift for now, and I didn't want to put too much work into it.
You put spray paint down for your corners.
Well, yeah.
Oh.
But he wants to know how the extent of the parking lot I put in.
Okay, thank you, Wendy and Steve. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
So through the chair,
Yes.
can we clarify? I understood that this 4-car parking lot was on land that is all owned by Ken Virgil.
It is.
It is.
So when we're talking about an extension of the 4-car parking lot, that would extend onto Circle K property.
No, it would extend south towards Canal Street. If you look at your site plan paper, you'll see it says 4-car parking lot. It is 50 feet. And then to the right of that, you'll see 6-car parking, which in turn would make it 75 feet wide.
If you deem it necessary, that's where we plan on putting the extra 2 parking spots.
I think we understand that. I think the confusing part is that is that they were discussing with Circle K if they built 4 and they needed some overflow area for people to park, they could use Circle K's existing parking area. I think that's what.
Open up a can of worms is not necessary.
Right, and then they said no to it. So, right, and then, so I think that there might have been, there was kind of 2 conversations there.
Yes.
Does that clarify? Okay, is everyone done? I only have one question, if everyone else is done. My question comes to washrooms and
Public.
yeah, not only employee, but for public washrooms as well. So what's the plan for, you know, if you're going to have six picnic tables and you're going to have a staff member working there from 11 until 7, what's the plan for on-site washrooms for both public and employee?
We will be going over to the mall.
Do you, so,
There will be no customer bathrooms.
and yeah, so, okay. And is through the development coordinator and the CAO, is that, do we know as far as like ESA and Ministry of Labor, if A, that's allowable, and B, is there any control in a site plan control agreement to ask for on-site service for washrooms?
Yes, Mr. Chair. If the site were subject to site plan control, the committee and council could require washrooms on site. I can tell you that. Is it for ESA and labor requirements? I couldn't answer that question. If it's a requirement, we could find out.
Yes, go ahead.
Health won't require washrooms for the employees, but labor will require that they have to have some place within, I think it's within 250 meters, that they gotta have a place that they can designate that employees can use. They'd have, if they're going to the mall, they'd have to have a signed agreement with the mall that their employees can use the washrooms. So we had the chip wagon at the lodge there. We didn't want them coming into the lodge. They asked there, but they had Miles' house right next door. They're give them a signed letter that they can come down to the washroom.
Do you have a signed agreement with Kevin that allows you to use the public washrooms in the mall?
Not at this moment, but he's been very sweet and compliant with anything we asked. I'm sure it won't be any problem.
Mr. Mayor, did you want back in?
I'm just gonna say, the question of the washroom, I think is going to be beyond our purview, out of our hands, and is something that the proponents are gonna have to deal with other agencies with, I think.
Health
unit.
Health unit and Ministry of Labor.
Yeah, so they'll have to have permission from them.
Yeah.
Have to have some permission for their employees. They're there for longer than, I think it's 3-hour shifts.
So
Yes.
I guess, so.
Let's get back to yours then.
One of the things that's on the table is whether we can do a site plan agreement and waive the condition for the $3,000 grading and drainage plan for a year. So my question through the chair to the community development coordinator and CAO is, and by the way, to the proponents is, what is our timeline for getting a site plan agreement in place? And how does our timeline sort of mesh with the proponents' proposed opening time? I'm assuming that they're gonna probably want to be open by the 20th of May, even if it is just for takeout.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we can get a site plan agreement in place that quickly, can we?
Through the chair, recognizing this is a seasonal business, I'd like to process it as quickly as possible. So I think I would recommend that as soon as we have a complete application, we put it to the next committee agenda, and so that it could go to council, hopefully at the end of this month. If the application isn't prepared in time, it would have to wait till council at the end of June.
Can
I would
speak to
have
that?
no problem, I would have no problem with that timeline.
Can I speak to that? As chair of this committee, I, want to see the McDonald's project moved along as quickly as possible. It's obvious that it's a seasonal business, and I'd like to see them get started as soon as possible. So normally it would come back to this committee, but by all means, the first available committee, I would say let's get it on their agenda. If the chair would be willing to accept that, then that would be to my liking for sure.
Welcome in my committee.
Audience, that'll get you, a month ahead anyway, so get you moving a little quicker. Okay, so are we good? Can I thank McDonald's?
Yeah.
Or do you need direction on anything else?
Could I just ask for clarification?
Yes.
If we are going ahead with site plan control and we are waiving the requirement for grading.
Well, that's a good question. So I don't know that we had full support for that. Can we, how do you want to do that? Do you want to make a motion? Do we need a motion?
Yeah, I'll formalize it as a motion, moved by myself, looking for a seconder, that we accept an application for a site plan control agreement on a one-year basis without a necessity for a grading and drainage plan for the first year.
Needing a seconder.
That's
Seconded by Councillor Dillabaugh.
just a question.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman. So we're going to insist on a site plan
Agreement.
but we're going to waive the grading and drainage for one full year till next summer, I would imagine. Just to be clear, I would support that.
Okay, so we've got a mover and a seconder.
Okay.
Yeah, through the chair, we'll put some wording together there, because we would certainly, I think committee would want some protection that if for some reason that there are some drainage issues that arise through that season, we may need to alter that in some way.
Yeah.
Okay. I only have one more question before we go to vote. Does anyone else have any questions there? I don't see any hands raised up top. No, we're good. Wendy, my only question for the McDonald's would be, does CIP funding, would CIP funding apply to this in any way?
It's not in the area. It's not in the CIP area.
Yeah, it's in Cardinal.
Yeah, but Cardinal is not, the whole town is not the CIP area. The CIP area is a very defined area.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Through the chair, I think it might be under the CIP area. I'm thinking of which program. Are we thinking the
Improvements in facade?
Or the
Anyways,
building?
just something that maybe that you can discuss with
I will
the
follow up
McDonald's.
with Stan and Wendy and to see if they're eligible for it.
Yeah. Okay, so now to call the question on the motion moved by the mayor and seconded by Councillor Dillabaugh, all in favor?
Aye.
Hands on the screen. Greg, yes.
Aye.
Chris, yes. Connor, aye. So passed unanimously. Look forward to seeing at the next available committee your application, Wendy and Stan.
Oh,
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. All right, moving on. So then we have reached number 7, which is notices and inquiries. Notice of motion and inquiries. Does anyone have any notices or inquiries?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have either a notice or an inquiry, just a quick little comment here. I think would be germane to the committee.
Go for it.
So this afternoon at 4 o'clock, I was at a Zoom meeting with 75 of the 110 mayors in the municipalities of the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. And the purpose of the meeting was to discuss this gig up, gig down project that EORN is proposing. And it's sufficient to say that all of the proponents, or excuse me, all of the mayors on the call, to a man actually, or to a lady, were 100% behind this gig up, gig down project, which will provide a gig up and a gig down, as opposed to the present federal program, which hopes to provide 50 up, 10 down. And basically the EORN folks are looking for widespread support and letters of expressions to both Minister Monsef, the federal minister, and Minister Scott, the provincial minister. So over the next few weeks, I think we'll be looking and to engage the public in that effort, because certainly for any money that's invested in the 50 up, 10 down project, it's really just money wasted, because in the end result, the technology is advancing faster than even 50 up, 10 down will serve the general public. So, and that project, by the way, is only aimed at 75% of the population. And this new gig up, gig down project that EORN has conceived will bring fiber optic to the home for 540,000 premises in Eastern Ontario, and it will provide service for the next 30 years. So that's why there's a big push on to get the political support behind this project and advance past the 50-10 standard all in one step.
Yeah, it's already outdated.
It's already outdated, yes.
Thank you for that. I don't think we're gonna have any problem supporting higher speeds for sure. Anyone else? Chris, was your hand just up or no?
No, just adjusting my camera.
Okay. My only.
I think mine's up there, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry, Greg, I didn't see it.
No problem. I'm not sure if this is notions or inquiry or if it goes under recreation, but here it goes. One is a question, and I think it may go to Wendy. We're trying to open up our, we're working on the dog park in Johnstown, and when we go on Google Maps, if you Google the Johnstown pool, or if you Google Johnstown ballpark, it brings you through Google Map to the South Edwardsburg Community Center. So I'm just wondering if Wendy is aware of how we can possibly get the Johnstown dog park associated to Google Map. Through her contact, I didn't know if she'd have a contact with Google Maps to have that added.
Through the chair, thank you, Greg, for your question. So no, I'm not familiar with how to do that. If that's something the committee would like me to look into, I could certainly.
It's good to have the dog park on the maps.
Yeah, you have to depend on when they do their next.
Yeah, it's usually when they do their next update, but I do believe that you can, I think we can call, there can be a contact with Google to ask to have it put on, but I don't know. Is that?
Okay, and further to that.
That's a good question, Greg.
Okay, so will somebody look into that, or should we, as an association, look into that?
How does everyone feel on that? Like, fair enough, good point. Counselor?
I think the association should look after it.
Association?
I think the association should look into it, but I think it will be added the next time the car or truck makes its rounds.
Okay.
Yeah, because the reason I'm asking it. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Councillor Dillabaugh speaking. Sorry.
No, I'm good with the association, and because like you said, once Google Maps comes around, they're gonna hit it, so.
Yeah, okay. So I think the general I think there's 5 of us around the table that say the association, Greg, so that it's the association's responsibility to contact Google if they want to get it put up there.
Okay, because our concern was it's township property and we just didn't want to do anything that's on, to advertise something on township property that, it's not owned by us. So, okay, no problem with that. But my follow-up on that is about 2 years ago, we did the wayward signing for Spencerville and Cardinal. And at that time, it was indicated that wayward signing for Johnstown did not go in that provincial funding for Main Street improvement signing, but that in the budget, there was going to be wayward signing for Johnstown to indicate where the pool and where the ball diamonds are. And I'm just wondering where we're at with that. The discussions indicated that there'd be something hopefully on Highway 2 or even on the corner of Sophia and Sutton to indicate clearly where the pool and ballpark and now the dog park is. I'm just wondering if there's an update on that.
That's a good question. I see the CAO nodding, so I'll go to the CAO on that one.
Certainly, with the activities that arose in 2020, that put on the back burner, but hopefully in 2021 we can move forward with bringing something back to the committee.
Yeah, good. Thanks for that inquiry, Greg. Could you hear the CAO on that one?
Couldn't be happier to hear it, and thank you for the information, Mr. CAO, through the chair.
Okay, anyone? No, good. Okay, my only one, Wendy, that I wanted to ask, and I think we've already dealt with it, but I just want to be 100% sure. We are going to have, so the zoning bylaw review, the updated version that will become available to public along with frequently asked questions as soon as you can get it available. And that's where the process is at. Basically, we're waiting for the not pandemic, but the stay-at-home order to end so that we can have a public meeting.
Yes, that's my understanding from the committee. As soon as the frequently asked questions and those info sheets we're preparing are ready, we will put those on our website for the public to view with the public version of the new draft of the zoning bylaw. We will not advertise a public meeting until the stay-at-home order has been lifted.
Okay, and if people, when they read that online version, when it goes up with the frequently asked questions, will they be able to provide their feedback right then? The feedback form will be available to them then to provide feedback, and the committee will get all of that feedback before we review it.
Through the chair, yes, there's a feedback form on the website already for early feedback, just so we have somewhere to direct people when there was lots of chit chat on Facebook or people were calling. We just give them a forum to provide some feedback. If the committee would like to do that feedback ahead of the rest of the feedback that we get from the public meeting, I would be happy to provide that. I think the goal was from our last meeting that after the open house, Novatech was going to provide a summary of all the feedback we received and provide it in more of an organized report. So just understand if we provide it early, it wouldn't be in that same format.
I'm hopeful that our June meeting will find us back to in-person and less restrictive measures, and maybe we'll be able to get on and get that process moving forward and not having to do it this way much longer. So. Okay, everyone good? No questions, there's no question period. Well, there is a question period, but there's nobody to ask questions. We don't have any closed session, so I just need a mover and a seconder for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Mayor Sayo for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody's hands up. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Chris Ward. Thank you, Connor Cleary. Thank you, Rebecca, for attending virtually tonight. Appreciate being able to host the CDC meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you, Dave, everybody.